just a note about this episode, piece by piece. They had to move to a new address, so I wanted to let you know that their new address is 6417 South Main Street in Los Angeles. So if you are in the area and you want to check them out, please set up a time to visit them. 6417 South Main Street in LA. Mosaics are defined as a picture or pattern produced by arranging together small colored pieces of hard materials such as stone, tile, or glass, resulting in the creation of something often ornate and beautiful. Sometimes mosaics tell the story of what was, what is, or what can be. Each mosaic is uniquely different and yet share a common history, simply created from something else. As I was putting together this podcast episode, I couldn't help but think about our lives that resemble mosaics, and that we set out to create a plan or pattern that is predictable, or so we like to think so, when in actuality, it can often be quite different. Sometimes our life plan is shattered, and it takes strength, energy, and determination to keep moving forward, to put the pieces back together to form a new life plan. Each time we experience this manifesting into a new life plan, we build our resilience and become perhaps more strategic or smarter in putting pieces together, and sometimes the circumstances make it harder than we could ever have anticipated. Such circumstances are poverty and homelessness. Homelessness is a chronic problem in Los Angeles with challenges that often seem insurmountable, from the sheer numbers of unhoused individuals to chronic mental and physical illness to the lack of services needed to support these folks. To put some data to these claims, according to the Public Policy Institute of California, more than a third of Californians are living in or near poverty. Los Angeles has the highest rate of poverty, 21%, more than any other county in LA. There are currently at least 64,000 people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles County. These numbers represent an estimate of people experiencing homelessness on any given night in Los Angeles. We call it the homelessness count. Advocates believe the numbers are actually higher. In 2022, California had over 181,000 homeless people, which accounted for 28% of the entire nation's homeless population. California also had the highest rate of unsheltered people at 68%. 123,000 were unsheltered. Roughly half of all unsheltered people in the country were in California, 49%. California had the second largest increase in homelessness from 2022 to 2023 after New York, which amounted to close to 10,000 more people, a 5.7 increase. To quote our featured organization today, these unhoused individuals are our neighbors, our community members, our friends, and in some cases, even our colleagues. Sophie Alpert had a vision to change the current reality into a positive outcome for so many. And it all started with a visit to a micro enterprise in South Africa. Welcome to Small and Gutsy, our podcast featuring nonprofits and social enterprises under $10 million. My name is Dr. Laura Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. We hope you'll love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Small and Gutsy is not just a podcast, but a 501c3 nonprofit. Our vision is to spotlight every smaller nonprofit and social enterprise to raise their visibility. So please help me with our vision and send me any organization you'd like featured at laura@smallandgutsy.org. Piece by Piece is an employment-related social enterprise designed to support individuals who have experienced homelessness or economic insecurity. Participants create mosaic art as well as small-scale housewares and large commissioned pieces, and by doing that, earn income and master soft skills while beautifying Los Angeles. One of their mantras is recycled art for a new cycle of life. I just love that. I think we can all use that when we're in a place where our life isn't looking like we thought it could. Their focus is on training and employing individuals who otherwise would have more limited opportunities. The Piece by Piece social enterprise's objectives are to provide a supportive community and a path towards self-sufficiency, self-love, and economic stability. The Piece by Piece social enterprise helps those who have experienced homelessness and/or economic insecurity, especially those who live in or around Skid Row,
and South Los Angeles. Piece by Piece provides on-the-job training and supportive services, infusing trauma-informed care and therapeutic wellness approaches, as well as providing opportunities for leadership and community engagement. Participant artists earn income through their creative talent by producing individually designed and created mosaic artworks, gaining artistic and entrepreneurial skills, and publicly showing their works both online and in person to increase their financial independence and self-confidence. I am so very excited to introduce my two guests today. And actually in this podcast, we're going to have another visiting guest, which is one of the participants, which we'll introduce in partway through the podcast. Founder and board director Sophie Albert, who in 2006 conceptualized this idea when she was on a trip to South Africa visiting micro-enterprise agencies which provided employment and opportunity to women. By 2007, Sophie launched Piece by Piece's first workshop in South LA in the community room of Beyond Shelter, a permanent affordable housing development for families who've experienced homelessness. An incredibly long history ensued, including award-winning artists selected to exhibit their work, commissioned works, and mosaic murals throughout Southern California. In 2022, Piece by Piece moved into their permanent studio space, and by 2023, added the veteran community to their participant pool. My other guest is Dawn Mendelson, Artistic Director, who's provided leadership in the development of Piece by Piece since 2007, its inception. She has over time built an artist curricula for participants that fosters learning in design, drawing, creativity, and mosaic technique with progressive benchmarks. Dawn specializes in pique assiette, a style of mosaic, she'll talk about that in a minute, which uses recycled materials. Her passion is working with people, especially those who are new to art and enjoying their moments of self-discovery. I just think this is an amazing organization, and I'm so excited to have both Sophie and Dawn share their knowledge and our participants share their experience. So let's get started. Welcome, Sophie and Dawn. Please share your passion for both developing Piece by Piece and what keeps you going in this space, doing the wonderful work that you're doing. So welcome. I don't know, Sophie, if you want to start as a founding member in the board of directors and take it from there, and then Dawn, you'll chime in.
Thank you, Laura. Such a beautiful introduction. I loved everything you said about mosaics and the symbolism behind it, which is part of what I loved about mosaics, is just taking these broken pieces and breathing new life into them, and the metaphor of all that, which is a lot of what we stand for. I just am inspired, even after all these years, every time I walk into one of our workshops. It's magical. And if you're in Southern California, I really hope that you will come and visit, because we have a beautiful website, but there's nothing like walking into that room and just feeling the positive energy and seeing the incredible art and just the community. We are, as you said, a social enterprise, and that is the mission and what we started out to be, but became so much more. All the other positive impacts of the program have become just as important, if not more. And that is about the bonds and the friendship and the community and building self-esteem and confidence. So.
Well, I think, artwork there's such an expressive component of it. And then I think the other piece is that when you join as part of a community and when you see what you've created, it's a feeling of, not only did I get a piece of myself out in this new designed object, but I can be both proud of it, and then I have my community being proud with me. And so it's just an incredible, I just love the whole concept. And yes, I am planning a visit because I want to come and see. And I'm a frustrated artist. I'm not an artist at all. I'm just a wannabe. I appreciate it so much. So I'm sure I'll be purchasing something. And when my daughter visits, who is really an artist, I want to bring her down as well. So anyone in the LA area, I encourage them to visit. But before we move to Dawn, I'd love to just go back a tiny bit. So you had this idea in 2006 based on your visit in South Africa. And then by 2007, you did your first workshop. So were you artistically inclined yourself? Did you just say, this is such a cool thing, how can I possibly do it here, particularly for communities that are in so need of both the idea of doing something together, but also the idea of creating and having some ability to earn income and earn revenue?
Going back a little bit further, yes, the trip to South Africa was the catalyst, but my personal story, like most people's stories, begins much earlier than that. I am the daughter, I'm a first generation American, daughter of immigrants. My father was a Holocaust survivor. My mother was from Mexico. Spanish was my first language. And I grew up with all the opportunities and blessings that I could ever ask for. And I felt this tremendous responsibility to give back. And in my 20s, I worked in Skid Row at a daycare center, which never left me. And I knew that I had to do something for our community here. And so that trip to South Africa just sort of spearheaded the efforts. I also, on a very personal level, I'm one of 8 children, and one of my brothers ended up being homeless, living in his car. And he's very handsome, brilliant. It's just that as I watched helplessly what happened to him and how pride kept him from seeking help, that further influenced me in my decision to try to do something. When I couldn't help him, I thought I have to help somebody. And so that's where this backstory began. And the trip to South Africa just gave me that idea. I took this model that I saw there with the social enterprise that was going on there with and the craft that these agencies that I visited were using were beads, because beads were common to South Africa. And I translated that into broken bits of tile and glass and found objects, because I'd always loved mosaics. I am not a professional artist like Dawn, but I've always been artsy and have enjoyed creating and doing crafts. And then I took classes to make sure that this was something that was actually doable for somebody who was not an artist. I mean, the goal originally was not to create artists.
Right.
It was to empower people to help themselves and to earn some much needed supplemental income. So you didn't have to be an artist. You just had to be able to participate and learn these skills to create art.
I love that. There's so much a little bit unpack in that whole story. So I love that a couple things that you said. One is that you don't have to be an artist, that this really is an experiential opportunity that then can perhaps produce revenue, but it does so much more than that. And that's extraordinarily important. It's not that that's not. Your personal story about your brother is so telling in so many ways, because being a social worker and having been exposed to lots of marginalized communities, often in my background, more HIV-related public health. And I currently have a son who's working at a homeless shelter in Portland, Oregon. So I think it runs in my blood in some way. But I also feel like what he has shared with me, which I wasn't surprised, is that so many people are it is not their fault. It is the fault of circumstances. It is the fault of our system. It is the fault of so many lack of opportunities. And you have created opportunities for people to bond together and also hopefully to earn some money as well. So there was so much in there that I just wanted to comment on. And having been born to Holocaust survivors, because my mother was a Holocaust survivor also, but very young, is you have this sense of repairing the world. You have this sense of what can I do to help. So I really appreciate that component of your history and just needed to comment on it. So thank you for that. And one other quick question before we move on to Dawn, and Dawn probably answered this question too, but I want to get to, is from that first workshop, you also had to see that somehow this caught on. Somehow people wanted to come and do this. And so you educated yourself, and then somehow were able to grow the program to the point of where it is today and have your own studio. So I don't know if you want to comment a little bit on that. And it sounds like Dawn was involved at the early onset also.
Yeah, I'll let Dawn speak to that, because Dawn was the very first person I hired. She trusted me and shared my vision. And that was so important. I was a total stranger to Dawn, and I couldn't believe she said yes. And, together we put on this very first workshop, and I worried about who was going to come, and posted flyers all over and talked to a few caseworkers in the building and just kept inviting people. And then I was shocked that people showed up. And then it was sort of word of mouth. Every time something good happened, I continued to be like, wow, like, how is this possible? How, and it really was word of mouth. And when we started that first workshop at 10 a.m. and by noon, people were still, and I remember it like yesterday, we're still so engaged and not wanting to leave the room. And then I thought, oh my gosh, it's lunchtime. They're hungry. So then that's how we added
Love it.
lunch. We just kept fulfilling whatever need came up. We were just, doing whatever needed to be done. And Dawn, I'll let you add to that or share your experience.
It really speaks to the organic nature of how you have developed, because you went for the needs first. What do people, we're setting this up and then we're going to invite people, and then whatever needs come, we're going to address those. So Dawn, you're on. You've been so patient. Welcome.
Thank you, Laura. The first workshops, I was so excited to hear from Sophie, because at the time I had been doing mosaics for several years and was looking for somewhere to share my passion about mosaic, because I was driving everyone crazy around me talking about mosaic. And and I wanted to do it in a setting where people don't have access to art, because I did live in a community that lacked art when I was younger. And it was so valuable, I could see, to many people. Those first workshops, I think the magic of Piece by Piece is in the people, both the artists that come to the program, but also the artists that are teaching the program. So at the beginning, there was just an amazing team of artists, Lee Adams and B. Jones and Luz Mack and Betty Rosen, who all had amazing, creative and empathetic outlooks that were welcoming to people. I mean, a lot of times one will go into a program, especially if you're doing maneuvering systems and people are just rote and they're always doing their thing. We were meeting people where they were. So if you were having a bad day, we gave you space. If you were having an awesome day, we celebrated you. And I think that that really helped. And a lot of the instructors worked in different backgrounds, different populations. We have a retired mental health nurse, and we have a lot of things that give us that extra that really helped foster this community. And I did want to mention that the majority of the artists who come to this program, or participants that come to this program, are in some type of supportive or affordable housing. We have had people that do not have a home, but most of the people are looking to maintain some of the stability in their lives, because that concept of housing first and getting people into housing is so critical. And in order to do that, you need things that make you feel safe. And I think that Piece by Piece became one of those places that made people feel safe.
I love that. I have so many questions. I want to just, how did the two of you get connected, Dawn? Because you didn't know each other.
No.
So it was really me that pursued Dawn. I had gone to Oakland because I found a mosaic school there. I couldn't find anywhere in Los Angeles that could teach mosaics. And I thought, I need to make sure that this is doable. I need to learn how to do mosaics, even though I won't be the one teaching. I need to really understand this craft and see what it entails. So I went to Oakland, took classes there, and started asking, please, do you know any mosaic artists, any mosaic instructors? And I got a few names, and then I literally just Googled, randomly called and hit Dawn. And I think I wrote her an email or called her and just said, can you please meet me for coffee? I just want to talk to you. And I didn't even know if she'd respond. And we just hit it off at that first meeting. And again, it was one of those things where I couldn't believe how fortunate I was that she was trusting me with this idea. We hadn't even had our first fundraiser to raise enough money, which we did in my backyard later, just for a pilot program. A lot of the magic sauce of Piece by Piece it really is the people. One of the things I'm most proud of is how many years everybody that's been there at staff, it's just kind of unheard of in a small nonprofit to have people like Dawn and Luz and who've been with us 17 years. I mean, who stays with a small nonprofit that many years? The passion, it's incredible. So, Donna and I were always
Very
very
smart.
careful and
Mhm.
selective about who we
Mhm.
let in to piece by piece. It was so important to have the right people because there's so many sensitivities in the room, and we just wanted to make sure that we had the right people in the room.
Well, I was thrilled to hear from Sophie, and I feel the same way as she said that she trusted me because really I have been doing mosaic for about 5 or 6 years and had only been started teaching 2 years probably, and teaching in South LA, that was great. We had like 9 people at the beginning, and by the end of the class, we had like 15 or 20 people trying to come in and participate, which was great. We brought everybody in. And then in Skid Row had its other set of challenges and things to learn because it's not just teaching a class. It's so much more than that when you're going into communities that are going through trauma and having some challenges, either with mental health or physical ailments, all kinds of things. And people that are used to hearing no come into the room and hearing yes. And so that's what I quickly learned was to be very supportive. And it was more than the teaching. It was just being there to tell somebody, you're doing great. You're doing really good.
I love that philosophy because I imagine you saw somebody from the very beginning of learning how to do a mosaic to where they actually accomplished it and how that may have shifted and changed the way they felt.
Exactly. And take it as far as they want to take it. So maybe you're coming in and you're feeling bad that day and you just want to make a picture frame and take it home. That's great. Maybe you want to pursue it. And we have several artists that have been here since the beginning that continue to come and they make amazing art because any kind of art I've learned is all about practice. It really just is about practice. And so you do need your cheerleaders. Probably many people have the story of when you were in school and one teacher said, boy, that looks horrible. And you shut down and you said, well, forget it. I'm not an artist. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times at Piece by Piece, people come in and they're like, I want to do this, but I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. And by the end, when they finish something, they're like, hey, I made this. And it's a great thing to celebrate. So that's
Mm-hmm.
been one of the great successes is just supporting people. That's the biggest thing because that to me relays out into the world, right? Because if you made this little coaster and it made you feel awesome, you're going to walk out of the room and you're going to feel good about yourself, and that's going to go to other people. So it spreads in that
Yes.
wonderful, joyful
Mm-hmm.
way, right? That's what
Mm-hmm. It
yeah,
totally
yeah,
does. Mm-hmm.
exactly. So in terms of the programming, we do have, Sophie was able to get National Endowment of the Arts grants so that we could bring artists from different places really in the world because we've had artists from Belgium and Italy and a couple of other places that come in and share their unique talents. And it's just a wonderful experience because not only do you see a new technique, but you see how another artist works. So you learn that there's not only one way to be an artist, there's many ways you can be an artist. So that's been really wonderful. A great aspect of the program is to have different voices in here supporting.
I absolutely love that. And does that happen several times a year, or does it just depend on the grant funding that you get, and then you work it from there? And so, tell me a little bit about that, and then the sort of regular programming that you have.
Yeah, a little. I think it's a little bit of both. When we had the NEA grant, we were able to reach out to people that are further away, so we can support in terms of travel and things like that. Sometimes artists, several of us here, the instructors here, have a strong ties to the Mosaic community, right? Because that's what we do. So when somebody's in town, they'll call up and they'll say, "Hey, I'm here for a week visiting so and so. I'd love to teach," and then we can bring them in. And have them share their experience, which is really great.
For that example, are they volunteers when they come and just say I'm here, and do they volunteer their time? I know the others grant, yeah.
Sometimes I think mostly we like to be fair and compensate artists for their time because it is one of the careers out there in the world where everybody goes, oh, you're an artist, it's good exposure. But really, we're about being, equitable and fair.
Love
And
it. It's great.
yeah, so it helps us if they're in town. It helps us if they have somewhere to stay, certainly. And everyone knows that. So they always certainly make the effort. And when we can, we make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think that's fair. And I think it also represents sort of your philosophy for your participants too. Because their art is, the goal is for them to sell some of their pieces and to have a revenue stream. So it also, when you do that with other people who are visiting, you're actually acknowledging that artists' time is important and what they produce is important. So I love that.
Another thing that I'm really proud of that we've added is because the communities that we work in are so under-resourced, we make it a point to provide cultural opportunities to all of our artisans and participants, and offer field trips to different galleries and museums, which is so important and so inspiring on their art journey. So that's become a big part of what we do as well.
I wanted to say one time I remember we did a trip to a local museum, and there was an artist who did amazing assemblage work, and he used gum as grout. And when we were walking around saying, okay, we don't do that.
That's really funny. But it's like, oh, what really a good idea. I love that. But it's funny because, again, it like raises the opportunity to have a discussion and talk about what's going to work here versus what's not going to work here. And so you have to have some of those boundaries in place. And I think that's really funny. But it's really cute.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it turned out that artist was there that day. So he
great.
came and spoke to the group, which was great because we could ask a million questions about chewing gum. But it was really funny. I thought that was
I think that's great. And then, so I want you to talk about the program, but I also, when you said that, it reminds me of your own interest in peak assiette, which is recycled. So you can do that first, since we were just talking about gum as a recycled tool.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into the program. But share, because I don't know that everyone knows what that is. I had to look it up personally. So
yeah. So when I first started Mosaic, I was going to college, and I was looking for something to do with my hands, and not so much thinking, just more creative. So I got a little mosaic kit. And it was just little tiles, and I did it, and I was like hooked. I was like, there's no going back now. So I went to the library and I pulled some books, and a lot of the books were about using recycled materials. And I thought, oh, well, that's amazing. And so I started going to thrift stores and yard sales and just amassing just amazing, everything chipped, broken, discarded. People didn't want them. It was a nickel for this, a dime for that. But such beautiful patterns and textures and history. And that became my passion, was finding all of those. And I have an embarrassingly large collection of broken plates that rivals Piece by Piece.
That's so funny.
But
that you're still waiting to use in something at some point.
Yes. I'm trying to
really
use
great.
all of it, but there's always that one extra pink plate I found that just, I know it'll go great somewhere, right? That's always the thing. But
love it.
but yeah, and that was one of the things that was so symbiotic with Sophie, was she was looking at recycled materials, and that's something I'm very passionate about too, and it was in my wheelhouse for teaching, because I understand the different thicknesses of plates, the different, hard body clay, soft body clay, all of those things that would really help guide people in using recycled materials, because you can play with everything, but not everything's going to stick, right? So that was really a great connection that we made.
I love that. My daughter, who it doesn't work in the art field except on her own time because she has to make money to pay her rent, she will love this so much. As a child, she would bring home everything from used tires that she'd find, and we'd find one in her room. It was a little challenging at times, but she is just a collector of things, and she revamps them, and she does this with clothing, and she does this with, and I think she would just love to be in that space whenever she can economically afford to sort of move from her kind of day-to-day job, all of that. But this is so, when you said that, I just thought, oh, that is just her apartment is just filled.
Collection.
But it's something I've always admired about her. And because I think she can see the beauty in things that somebody else might walk by. And that was always touching for me as a parent. I don't know if I massaged it as well as I could because it was a little overwhelming at times. But she always felt that I appreciated that side of her. So this is just right up her. So when she comes to visit, we're coming down. I'm coming down anyway, but she's going to love to come down and hang out, and be, help participate or whatever. So let's move into the program. I just had to share that little bit because it just struck a chord with me. It's so funny.
You'll never look at a broken plate the same again. I always remember my son when he was, when I was just starting it piece by piece and something crashed in the kitchen, there was a silence. And then he said, "Mom, do you need green?" And so
That's so perfect. That is so perfect. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing anymore. It was totally fine. But in terms of the programming at Piece by Piece, we have a beginning workshop. And then we have 2 open studio sessions where people can come and work on their individual projects at their own pace. And there are instructors on hand to advise and support them. And then the directed studies, which is where we have the visiting artists come in from different places. So, and those, everyone works on the same project together and takes that journey with the instructor on whatever they're trying to help people envision. And some people come in every day and all day and make amazing art all day long, and have that sense of community and connection. The other aspect of the program is our certificate program, which is something that helps guide people. It just helps provide goals because, it's nice to have something to work toward. And it's also beneficial to Piece by Piece because we have training so that when we do big projects, everybody knows what they're doing when they're working on that project. And that's very important to us because when you're doing a large scale public art, the person commissioning or the organization commissioning wants that confidence that people know what they're doing. So in the certificate program, you study a series of 5 things about mosaic. And then I give a verbal test, not a written test, because written tests can be scary. I just talk somebody through it and I say, "Show me how you do this." And we talk through vocabulary and things like that. And the first level, they sell their own work. They earn 70% of the sale of their work. The second level is working on small commissions. So we do a lot of centerpieces. Sophie's found a lot of great organizations that votives and frames and things like that. Awards, a lot of awards we do, beautiful things. The third level is what you were speaking to, which is the public art, the murals, things like that, are larger scale. And then the fourth level is helping somebody who wants to become a professional artist. So we'll help them with their CV, we'll help them with their portfolio, host them to do an exhibit here in the space so that they can share their work. So it helps move somebody through, and there's always something you can learn, right? I'm learning every day still to this day. So
always. Are all of the classes free for those who are in the housing situation or in an insecure financial situation?
Yes.
That's great. And then the way that it earns revenue is really from the commission pieces, or if the artist sells, then you get a percentage and so on, and then through grants. I'm just trying to understand the structure of how you've created this.
A lot of hard work in writing grants, as Sophie can attest to.
It is. And it's impressive of what you've created and what you've grown. And then Sophie mentioned early on that in that first workshop, you're like, "Oh, we got to feed people." Is that part of the program? Is somebody there all day? Do you have a kitchen? How does that piece work? Just so I have a sense of it and my audience
We
does.
we do serve lunch. We're working with different, I don't know what you call them, providers, where they make the kits, and then we assemble them. And one day we have pizza. We had pizza every Friday for 12, 15 years from the same place.
It was Pizza Friday.
Yeah, which was great. I mean, it was wonderful. But yeah, I think breaking bread is another really important aspect of building community is having people together.
I do too.
And during holidays, we have a turkey sandwich day, and everybody, it's like a potluck, so people can bring if they want. It doesn't necessarily have to, but
Right.
like that. And then during the end of year holidays, we have another kind of potluck celebration thing. So we have different ways of celebrating and breaking bread together.
I love that. I love the philosophy behind it. I love the activity around it. And I love that then if participants do want to be participate in a potluck, that they give back in a certain way that, again, builds self-esteem and makes somebody feel good if they choose to. They may not want to because they don't cook or they don't feel comfortable or whatever, but at least it's open for that, which I love. So you're open every day during the week, not the weekends, I'm assuming.
The classes are in session on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then Tuesdays and some Thursdays, the commission team is working.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so the classes are twice a week.
So I know we mentioned that there may be a participant who would like to share their experience. And so do you feel comfortable reaching out into the studio space and seeing if anybody's available and if they'd like to come and they can introduce themselves and just share their experience? Very open-ended.
Sure. I'll go get them right now.
So, Sophie, I have you for a few seconds while Dawn walks away. And so it's just been an incredible thing that you've created. I have to ask you, during this very long tenure that you've been clearly connected, have there been any aha moments for you?
Starting the program, the intent was to empower people to earn some income. And like I said earlier, I didn't realize how much more important the other positive outcomes could be and how life-changing that could be. I mean, sometimes just you don't know what someone's story is and why they're in the room, and just a smile, a compliment, a positive word can be life-changing for them. And learning about how important all of those outcomes are versus just the income earned has been a real aha moment for me.
I love that. I think we all need that. And I think especially when we have had circumstances in our life that have been less than favorable, we need that because we need to be valued as a human being. And so I love that. So we have somebody, Dawn, I think you're on mute. So we're going to unmute you. Hi, welcome.
Hi, June. Hi, June.
June. So I got your name is June. Oh, I love that. That's a virtual hug you just gave. I saw that. I don't know that anyone will see it. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, Sophie gets it every time. Every time I see her, it's a powerful vibe. I can't break it.
So June, I'm Laura, and it's nice to meet you. You're going to be on our podcast about Piece by Piece. Don't worry, it's fun. It's just a conversation. But I would love to hear your experience with Piece by Piece. Anything you want to share that you'd like to talk about, whether it's the art itself or the community, please. The floor is yours.
Definitely. I was homeless for almost 8 years. I think in 2019. No, I can't remember because it's been a minute. But I was living in the vortex of Skid Row. I had an apartment right there on 5th in Los Angeles. I needed a place of refuge, a place to help me think and get my health care together. I was ran away from a domestic violent kind of situation, and I had breast cancer at the time and needed a place to go to. So one of the case managers down there said, "You know, check out Piece by Piece." I said, "Piece by Piece? There's got to be something with this." So I went to the Star Apartments where they were, and Piece by Piece was there. And it was almost like fragments of my life, just like that were dismantled, came together there because I saw people like me that had issues, health issues, housing issues, women issues, homeless disparities, and things like that. And I was watching Dawn. I met her and Miss Lee and B. Jones and Betty, Roseanne, and Julie, the whole team, and they embraced me and accept me as I am. Come on, sit down and have a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And, I said, "Oh, okay." So I made this heart, and then I started watching other artists and just got really excited about creating nothing into something. Even out of
I love that.
Even out of the concrete grew a flower. And I think that was me because I was really, really hurting, needed a place to belong to, needed to get somewhere where I could get my mind, and my strength back to help myself. Went to King Hospital, got my treatment, and kid graduated from college, and I just kept persevering. But piece by piece gave me a life raft.
I love it.
Because I was drowning in some serious sorrow. And when I met Don Mendelsohn, I knew it was like it clicked. I've been here for about 9 years almost. Ooh, I stopped counting down. And I just find the community, right? We galvanize people from all walks of life. And then I realized talking to my other artisans that we're all in the same boat, that they have the same issues as I, the same concerns and everything. So I call it my piece total family, and I've been adopted by some great people. So my thing is to create art that inspires me, but inspires society, make people think like, wow, what was she thinking? Or what was this image? And just using the materials, and it's a win-win, it really is. So.
You're creating it for the benefit not only of yourself and what you get to give back, but for the viewer on what it means to them and how they get to interpret it. And the other thing you said that I think is beautiful, besides your own journey, and thank you for sharing, is that this community, you hold up each other, that you're not alone.
Yes.
And you realize, I'm also a survivor of breast cancer, so I so appreciate you sharing that. And
each one reach one, teach one.
It's beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you.
It's just that you.
I'm 67 this year in June. And I said to myself, I finally found my niche. I'm a mom, grandma, aunt, but the most important thing, I'm a woman. I have a right to the tree of life, and I'm an artist.
Yes,
Ooh,
I love it.
It's catapulting me.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely.
It's catapulting me.
It's beautiful. I love that.
I just like to come in here, inspire, and shake up the art room and everybody's problem. But it's okay, we're all part of, and I feel I'm socially responsible because you never forget who's been good to you along the way.
Yeah, it's a great point.
It takes a lot of us,
Well, and you realize that you're not alone, and that we're all more alike than we are different, and that every other artist there has gone through their journey. It may not be exactly the same, but it's a painful journey, and you're on the other side of that.
I'm on the side of healing.
And you continue to heal.
I will. I appreciate you. Thank you, Dawn.
All right.
Wow, I feel like a spokeswoman. Channel Santa.
June, before you go, I have to ask you a question, one more question. You're just, first of all, and again, I'm a social worker by training, so I just hear what I hear. You are a bundle of positive energy. You are just so much on the other side, and you've embraced what you've embraced, and you're giving it back, and I can feel it through the camera. I can feel it.
Yeah, positive street, staying off negative avenue.
I love that. It's a great line. I love it.
You can't tell me, I can spot it coming. And older you get, it's like, ooh.
I love it. You're a smile that doesn't quit. I love it. I just love it.
Wow.
And is there anything in particular that was a turning point? I know that to me, what I heard was the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the community, the connecting, the figuring that you're not alone, that other people have their journey. But was there any point in time where you thought, I am going to get through this during your time there?
I knew when I did a piece for myself, it was a portrait of myself, and Daniel and Don and somebody invited me to somebody's church down there by UCLA, and they said, bring the art, we want to show it to the people. I said, ooh, I was so stoked up, me invited to an art show. I had never been in an art show before. I didn't even know what to expect, but I got down there and these people liked the art, and I go, wow, they like what I did. And it was something that I just like conjured up in my own mind. I didn't even think that the beauty that was in it, it took other people to see it before I even saw it myself.
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw it, I said, oh yeah, this is me. I can do this. I'm going to own this. And
I love it.
It's been my passion. It's been my healing. It's been my chemo. It's been my radiation. It's been everything, because when I bring pieces to Martin Luther King Hospital, when I go to the oncologist, they go, oh, she did that. Wow, where are they? And then that's when I want to be piece by piece PR person. Oh, or 50 person probably, and it opens up a whole can of worms with all the oncologists and doctors. Oh, she does mosaics. She can, maybe we can galvanize more people. That's what I'm about. Bringing the community together, using the art as a healing mechanism for people to just sit and focus on what is it that you can do with color. Sophie brought something she brought with
I love
Africa.
it.
She brought it
Yeah.
back to America, and she's setting us
Yeah.
all
I
free.
love it.
Come
I
on,
love it.
come
I
on,
think
stop
you are a
crying.
great spokesperson, and I love at MLK Hospital that you could do that, and your oncologist recognizes it. And I also want to say that some things in our lives are just can be strictly transactional. You do a piece, it's transactional. What you're describing is actually transformational, not only for yourself, but I really see it for other people. For anyone who's exposed to you or your art,
Yes.
it is transformational for them because it has been for you. And it gets translated through the art that you create. And
Yes,
I have to say, you're moving me emotionally too. You are. So,
Oh, Miss Laura,
well,
I'm with
well,
you.
we're
I got
breast
you.
cancer sisters, right? We're breast cancer sisters. So we got
We
this.
got this. Right, right. And we can overcome, you know. You empower me to know that I'm standing in good ground, that I am my life has meaning and purpose. And I can stand in that truth, my own truth, and be proud of that strength I'm feeling from you, Laura and Don and Miss Sophie, to just stand firm and be myself. The best person to be is oneself. There's no carbon copy of an original person. Thank you, Sophie, too. I didn't mean to get off the subject a little bit, but all those little kids that came in, those teenagers from the Hebrew school, they were amazing. They kept saying, June, June.
I love that. Because you that gets translated. So I'm going to come down at some point, and one of my daughter is going to come visit, and she's very artistic, and so
cool.
I hope you're there because I would absolutely love to meet you. It would be an honor and
I
a
would
privilege.
love to meet you too.
So
Definitely.
we'll figure that out.
Okay.
You know,
As
thank
they say
you.
as they say in the Caribbean, more times. I'm here.
More
Need me?
times. I love
Don, you know
that.
how to find me.
Thank you, June.
Bye-bye.
Oh, what a delight! That was so delightful. They're hugging on the side. I can see it. Thank you. That was really lovely. Thank you, Don, and thank June again for being able to share her experience. Because when you hear somebody's own story, it strikes something so differently. And her ability, given what she shared, to come through that in the strength and really in the grace in which she did, and still is truly amazing. And she had many strikes, you know, coming from an abusive background. She said, her from a relationship, and then her own cancer story, which I know all too well. And it's for her to be glowing in the way that she is, speaks volumes about how your program is not a transactional program, it's a transformational program. And that's what I pulled from that. And it's really remarkable. So thank you, and thank her again. And I want to meet her. So I hope I get to. So we'll have to figure out.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, when she's there. Toward the end of our podcast, I always have a round of fun, quick, and gutsy questions. So if you all are ready, I'm ready.
Sure.
So what is at the top of your wish list for piece by piece? However, the answer can't be funding or money.
Such a big wish list, but just living with the knowledge that we've created a legacy and maybe a blueprint for other organizations to have the faith that they could create a program that could really empower individuals in other under-resourced communities and change their lives.
I don't know that there are other programs like this anywhere else that actually are social enterprises in this same way. And it would be amazing, not to put one more thing on your collective plates, but if you ever could consult to other organizations starting this up, I think it is remarkable. And you've been through all the heavy lifting in some ways. And so you could create this in other cities that have similar populations, and it would be phenomenal. And so that's my, I don't get a wish, but that's my wish for you. Okay, Dawn, you're on.
Well, I agree with Sophie. I think that the legacy and having it out there in the world so that other people can model this magical sense of community and welcoming. And one of the ways to do that is to volunteer. So anybody who's in the area who would like to come and participate, and learn and, be a part of this amazing community. That would be my wish.
I love that. So that actually, we didn't talk about this, but anyone can come and volunteer who's not of community.
Yes.
Great. This is great to know. So I'm going to put out some kind of bulletin, volunteer, 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 because you can never have too many volunteers who are willing to go through the training and respect your guidance and your rules and how you want to. And so it just takes time to really observe and listen. So I think that's beautiful. And they're both great wishes. If you were to think of a song that describes piece by piece, it could be a lyric if you can't think of a song, but if you were to think of a song, what might that be?
I have one.
Do you want to go, Dawn? Go ahead.
Do you have one?
I do, but go ahead.
Oh, mine is We Are Family.
Perfect.
I love
We've
that.
talked about it a lot, so you definitely are family. And by the way, family that stays around for many, many years, which I love, right? They don't go flying off somewhere else.
It's a chosen family.
It's a chosen family.
The magic part too.
I just love it. I love it. Okay, Sophie, what's yours?
I actually, and I might read these lyrics because they're so powerful for me. There's a song from the musical Wicked called For Good. And what I love about it, it says, I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them. And we help them in return. But I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Because I knew you, I have changed for good. And I think that there's sort of a reciprocal sort of idea there. I know that I've been changed because of people like Dawn and the other staff members that are so passionate and the participants. So it kind of works both ways. I know there's been a lot of positive change in their lives, but my journey has totally been because of everybody involved.
So beautiful. One of my favorite songs. The lyrics, I'm so glad you read them. And the reciprocity that you speak of is exactly what transformation is all about. It isn't a one way, I'm giving this to you because I feel sorry for you. It really isn't at all about that. It's you're giving an opportunity and it comes back because you learn at the same time. And Dawn had mentioned that in terms of both inviting other artists, but I imagine even participants were even in teaching, because I know that as a teacher myself, you learn from your students. And so I deeply appreciate both of your responses, actually, because it takes a family and a community, and it takes the opportunity to really understand what reciprocity is about in the idea of learning and loving. I would add loving to that too. Yeah. It's great. Thank you. So I think this next question will be easy for each of you. What makes Piece by Piece gutsy? Is you're definitely gutsy, and we're from the beginning. So what makes you gutsy?
I think we just have a will to persevere. I mean, there were so many times when we could have just given up. I mean, COVID's a perfect example. We could have folded. It just never seemed like that was an option. We just continue to just move forward, and problems are just there to be solved, and we move forward.
I think definitely we're gutsy, and just how Sophie said, we don't ever take no for an answer. And when a project comes up that's a challenge or something comes at us that we weren't expecting, there's no one runs around with their hands like this. Everybody puts their heads together and says, okay, how do we fix it? And there's never, even in a class, when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, can I put, glitter on this in my grout? I always say, I don't know, let's try. So it's all about experimentation, right? We're here to learn. So I feel like that makes us gutsy.
What is something that outsiders or even maybe a few insiders don't know about Piece by Piece?
We are very much a supportive service in the community. But in addition to, I know I mentioned field trips and adding that cultural aspect to the program, but we're also trying to always meet the need. We're providing financial literacy classes in conjunction with Bank of America. We've added an art therapist, whatever that need is. We're not just an art program, not just a social enterprise. We're really trying to address the needs of the community.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that's the organic growth that we talked about earlier. And so I love that when these needs come up, you find a way to accommodate them and provide a service that otherwise may not have been provided for your participants, which I love. Dawn, what do you think in terms of something that outsiders or maybe even a few insiders don't know?
Well, one thing that often comes up is when we have visitors come and they see how amazing the art is and how prolific everyone is and how camaraderie and all of that. And they say, wow, you must have a staff of 40 people. And pretty much it's like four of us, you know. And that's always a shock to people. They're like, what? There's only,
How do you do
yeah,
this?
and it's certainly a testament to all of the people that dedicate their time above and beyond to make things happen. That it's not visible. People don't see that at all.
I just wanted to share how important and how much appreciation I have for our entire staff. They're really the unsung heroes. And without these angels, we'd be nowhere. Maggie Bowman, our executive director, JD Delgado, our social enterprise manager, Don Mendelson, our program director, Luce Mack, our very talented social enterprise and mosaic instructor, B. Jones, another mosaic instructor, Betty Rosen, sorry. So many others.
Wendy is a teaching, and we've had some volunteers who were with us for years, which was Gail and Belinda. So they volunteered, and Chris and Sheila, all of those four.
Ellen Dinnerman.
And yep, Ellen Dinnerman.
And we have participants who've now worked their way up and are teaching and involved in doing, administrative work as well. And so proud of them because they've worked their way up through the program and are now giving back by, being employed and doing work for Piece by Piece.
If you could get one celebrity or influencer to talk about Piece by Piece and promote it and get it out there, who might that be?
So I don't know if he'd be the biggest promoter, but it's really important to me that it would be somebody who's sort of on brand with the organization. And the person that comes to mind is Keanu Reeves because he's so humble and kind. And
he's so humble and kind.
He's very philanthropic, but he gives anonymously. And that's kind of who we are. That's who Piece by Piece is.
Yeah.
And I'd only want somebody who understood that about the organization.
I love that because you're going to be selective in who would speak on your behalf. And I think that, again, speaks to your philosophy and you're holding true to what you're there to do. And so I think he should be invited to participate in a workshop and see what it's about. Come and visit. I think we have to reach out to him in some way. I think it'd be great because I've seen things posted and I follow him on Instagram and I've witnessed that myself. And I think he's remarkable. Dawn, what about you?
Well, I will stand with Sophie's answer. I mean, who I immediately thought of is a well-known local artist here, Mark Bradford, who has a similar philosophy and is an amazing person. And I would love to make a connection with him and the work that he does. It's not mosaic, but it's beautiful, powerful collage that has such wonderful messages that would align with our philosophies.
I think collage, similar to mosaic, and tells a story or can have an interpretation to it. And so what a great marriage between applications of creative mind and inspiring. Just like when you do your field trips, it could be that kind of inspiration for participants in your workshop. So I just love that. So how do people reach you? How do they find you?
Through our website, you can reach any of us through our first name at piecebypiece.org, Sophie or Don at piecebypiece.org, or info at piecebypiece.org. Our website is really dense and filled with wonderful stories and ways to get in touch and to volunteer or just, become involved.
And what's your website?
It's piecebypiece.org, www.piecebypiece.org.
I encourage anyone in the LA area to contact you, find out when they could come and have a visit, possibly volunteer, learn about you, donate. spread the word of your great work and maybe purchase a piece by one of your fabulous participant artists, which I think would be amazing. And I hope to do the same. It's my goal. I want to do that just because you've totally, I have, the bug is bitten. I'm like dying to come down. It was such a wonderful conversation with the two of you. And I just want to take a moment and thank you and thank June for me also for sharing her story. And as a breast cancer survivor sister, she's all over it. She's like the positive street, not the negative street. I don't know exactly what she said. That's brilliant. I love it. But I just want to take a moment and thank you, Sophie, for coming up with this idea, Dawn for taking a chance and joining, and both for staying so engaged and really creating an organization over a significant length of time that is not only operating but thriving, and I hope grows. And my wish is that it can be replicated, that you create an opportunity for it to be replicated elsewhere, because it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for people to get back on their feet and feel truly good about who they are, as they should, and that their circumstances will change. So thank you both for taking so much time and joining the Small and Gutsy family, because you're small and gutsy.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to let us share.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Laura.
Please go to smallandgutsy.org to check out all of our episodes. And if you are so inclined, please purchase some Small and Gutsy merchandise, consider sponsoring an episode, or making a donation. Both are tax deductible to help keep us going and spotlighting these great organizations. The opinions and viewpoints expressed by our guests are independent and do not reflect the position or views of Small and Gutsy. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, so before you sign on to support or work for them, we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well.
I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, the Intrinsic Group, my incredible board of directors, Brianna Carmichael, John Gatto, Lucy Mello, Ari McCoy, Melissa Greitz, and Serena Rajabian, who believed in me and this project enough so to sign on and to support this effort, and all the folks, friends, and family who have guided and inspired me. And thank you for listening. Together, we are spreading social impact, and you can help us. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to email me the name of any organization you feel would benefit from being interviewed. From small and gutsy to big with impact. I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.